He hired a maid, and her son then found the same scar. His missing baby had 15 years ago. She never asked for more than minimum wage. He never looked twice until the boy smiled. Some scars fade, others return with a face, and a name you never expected to hear again. This isn't a story about cleaning houses. It's about secrets that sweep themselves under the rug until one smile, one question, and one scar unravel a life. You're watching Real Father Stories, where truth knocks when you least expect it. David Langston didn't hire people. He acquired them. He didn't shake hands. He signed contracts. He didn't make conversation. He dictated terms. And for the last 12 years, since the collapse of his marriage and the disappearance of his infant son David, had lived alone in his 3-story home like a king in a quiet fortress. He didn't trust assistants, avoided guests, and personally interviewed anyone allowed past his gated driveway, except her. Angela Martinez came through an agency, requested minimum wage, and never asked to speak directly to him. She arrived on a Tuesday morning holding nothing but a small backpack and the hand of a teenage boy. "I'm sorry," she said immediately, standing in the marble entryway with eyes lowered. "I have nowhere else to leave him. He won't be any trouble." David didn't respond at first. He hated disruptions. The boy's shoes were worn, his jeans patched at the knee, and his sweatshirt hung from his shoulders like it had been owned by someone larger, older. The child's eyes didn't meet his. They studied the floor, the paintings, the corners. "I don't need children wandering around," David finally muttered. "I understand. I'll keep him out of sight." There was a long pause. David sighed, checked his watch, and stepped back. "Just don't let him break anything." And that was the beginning. Angela dusted like she was erasing her own existence. She moved from one room to another without sound, wiping down surfaces, folding linens, even organizing books on shelves David hadn't touched in years. The boy never wandered, never spoke. He sat quietly in the library or the garden sketching, reading borrowed books, sometimes whispering stories to himself like he was narrating a world only he could see. After 3 days, David began noticing things. The silver was shinier than usual. The hallway no longer smelled like dust. The mail was arranged by importance without being touched. He told himself it didn't matter. Then, on the 5th day, as he passed through the study, he caught sight of the boy sitting in the sun drawing. David paused in the doorway. The boy didn't look up. He was focused on the paper pencil, moving in slow arcs and gentle curves. "What are you drawing?" David asked, surprising even himself. The boy didn't speak. He simply held up the page. It was a tree. Not just a child's scribble, but a full detailed sketch, roots twisting like veins, branches bending into the sky. In the middle of the trunk was a small scar. David blinked. "Do you always draw trees?" The boy finally spoke, voice soft and calm. "Only the ones I remember." David stared at him. He didn't know why, but something about the boy's expression, the steady eyes, the slope of his smile, scraped at the edges of his memory. Later that night, after the house fell quiet, David poured himself a glass of scotch and opened a locked drawer in his office. Inside, wrapped in old tissue paper, was a baby blanket, faded blue, one corner embroidered with the name Lucas. He unfolded it slowly. It had been 15 years. 15 years since Maya vanished without a trace, taking their newborn son with her. No phone call, no letter, just an empty crib, a bottle on the floor, and that blanket left behind, like a goodbye he wasn't allowed to answer. He'd searched. God, how he searched. Police reports, private investigators. He even followed tips in other states, hoping for a miracle. But the world swallowed them both. Until now. Because for the first time in a decade, David saw something in a child's face that made the past pulse back to life. Over the next week, the routine continued. Angela arrived every morning at 7:30 sharp. Leo, her son, always came with her, quiet, polite, invisible to most eyes. But not to David. Every time he passed the boy sketching in the corner of the library or curled up in a chair by the window, something in David shifted. It wasn't just the calm way Leo held his pencil or the patience with which he erased and redrew leaves on his trees. It was how familiar his stillness felt. One morning, David stood at the top of the stairs watching Leo from a distance. The boy had fallen asleep, mid-sketch, chin on his shoulder pencil, still resting against the paper. His sketch pad had slipped to the floor, open to a page that made David stop breathing. It was a baby's face, small, soft, cradled in the curve of an arm, and above the baby's elbow, the faint outline of a scar. Not just any scar. A scar shaped like a hook, curved in exactly the same way as the one David had seen 15 years ago, just under his son's tiny arm. He walked down, picked up the sketch pad, and stared. He didn't know if Leo had imagined it or remembered it. But either way, something wasn't right. Later that evening, David pulled Angela aside after she had finished mopping the marble floor. "Can I speak with you?" Angela froze. Her eyes flickered from his to the hallway, where Leo sat reading. "Of course," she said, forcing a smile. They moved to the kitchen. David poured her a glass of water. He didn't drink this time. "How long have you had him?" he asked. Angela's expression changed, just slightly. "Leo, since he was a baby." "From where?" Angela didn't answer. "I'm not accusing you," David said carefully. "I'm just asking. There's something about him. He reminds me of someone I once lost." Angela placed the glass down. Her voice was quiet. "I found him in a hospital, Mr. Langston, 15 years ago. No name, no records, just a baby that no one claimed." David leaned in, heart hammering. "What hospital?" "St. Jude's, Albuquerque." David closed his eyes. That was where Maya disappeared. David stayed up all night. He went into the basement, somewhere he hadn't stepped foot in since the divorce, and pulled out the box labeled Lucas. Inside were manila folders, police reports, old flyers, one dried-up pacifier, and dozens of photos of a baby with soft eyes and a half-smile that haunted him still. He pulled out the birth certificate, the hospital records. He compared them to what Angela had said. It lined up. His fingers trembled. He remembered the scar most. The nurses had noted it after birth. A small cut, sustained during delivery. Curved like a hook. Only a few babies ever had it in that exact location. David went to his desk and made a call. He didn't care how much it cost. He needed a DNA test. Quietly. The next morning, he took a used glass Leo had drunk from, sealed it in a sterile bag, and handed it to his personal investigator. "Rush this." 3 days, that's how long it took, but every hour crawled like a century. During those 3 days, David watched Leo more closely than ever. He noticed how the boy traced the outlines of people's faces with his eyes, even though he never looked anyone directly in the eye. He heard the way Leo hummed old lullabies under his breath, lullabies Maya used to sing. He couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and then the call came. "Sir, the results are back. Paternity match is 99.98%. David dropped the phone. His son had been living under his roof. Angela knew the moment she saw his face that he knew. She didn't run, she didn't cry. She simply placed the feather duster down and waited. David walked into the living room. "Sit." She sat. "I know he said. I know who he is. I know what you did." Angela nodded slowly. "I didn't steal him," she said. "I found him. I saved him." "Where At the hospital. He'd been left for over 2 weeks. No one came. The nurses were about to turn him over to the state. I worked night shifts cleaning the hallways. I saw him every day. I asked questions. One day I came, and the nurse whispered to me that social services were coming the next morning. Angela's voice shook. I took him. I didn't know who he was. I only knew he didn't deserve to be passed around like luggage. David paced the floor. You changed his name. You moved across the country. Angela nodded. I never lied to him. I just didn't tell him everything. He thinks he's mine. And in every way that matters, he is. David looked at her, and for the first time he saw not a maid but a mother. That night, David knocked on Leo's door. The boy looked up. David sat across from him. I have something to tell you, he said. Leo tilted his head. There's a reason you've always felt out of place. It's because your first name wasn't always Leo. It was Lucas. Lucas Langston. Leo didn't speak. David continued. You're my son. I lost you a long time ago. And somehow fate brought you back. Leo's lip trembled. But my mom, she is your mother. She saved you. She raised you. I would never take that from her. But I'm your father, and I want to know you. Leo whispered, Did you ever look for me? David nodded, eyes full. Every day. Lawyers got involved. Papers had to be filed. But David didn't want to destroy Angela. He wanted to protect Leo from the courts, from headlines, from trauma. He and Angela worked out an agreement, joint guardianship. Angela could stay. Leo wouldn't be moved. Nothing would change overnight. Except everything did. David started eating dinners at the kitchen table. With them. He asked Leo about his drawings. Helped him set up an art studio in the East Wing. Leo asked if he could call him Dad. David said, Only if you mean it. Leo said, I do. 6 months passed. Leo entered a private art school. David showed up to every student gallery event. Angela became a co-parent in everything but name. And one evening, on Leo's 15th birthday, David handed him a small box. Inside was a necklace, a silver tag. On it, Leo, Lucas Langston. You don't have to choose, David said, but you should know where you came from and how far you've come. Leo hugged them both. I know exactly who I am. Years later, at his graduation exhibition, Leo told the story publicly for the first time. He unveiled a giant painting, a single tree with 2 roots twisting beneath it. One scarred, one strong. This is my family, he said. One gave me life. One gave me love. Together, they gave me a future. David stood in the back, his eyes filled. Angela gripped his hand. No lawsuits, no apologies, just forgiveness, and a scar that healed them all.